What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to this episode of Restoration with Vic. For today's project, we got a special one. We got these Beyond Cooked 2000 Air Jordan 11 Concords. This is gonna be my first ever restoration on a pair of 11s on this channel, so I'm super excited. But this shoe's gonna need the works. We're gonna be using Rejuvenator products to bring this shoe back to life. We're also gonna be icing these soles to get them back to as icy as possible. Right now they're piss yellow. And of course, we got some nasty separation on the sole and midsole. For this part, we're gonna bring back my good friend Sal to teach us how to properly do a full reglue on the soles and midsole. This project's gonna be one for the bugs, so without further ado, let's get it started. As always, for before and after purposes, we're gonna put the left shoe to the side. In order to get this cleaning done successfully, we're gonna need Rejuvenator Signature Shoe Cleaning Kit that comes with the shoe trees, all 3 brushes, solution, towel, and laundry bag. First things first, let's take out our shoelaces and insole. Next, we're gonna grab our shoe tree, adjust it to size, and put it inside the shoe. As you can see, the patent leather on the toe box is really crushed. This is gonna help us eliminate that. Fingers are black, dude. Now we're onto the solution. We're gonna grab our 4-ounce bottle, squirt 2 squirts inside our water. Looking good, all prepped, ready to go. The next step we're gonna do is grab our soft bristle brush, dunk it in our water and solution, and start hammering these uppers so we can get them back to as white as possible. Uppers are looking all right. It's still pretty yellow and dingy in some areas, so we're gonna let the suds sit on the uppers for a little bit longer so it can continue to break down that stuff while we focus on the insides next. All done with the soft bristle brush for now. Let's move on to our medium so we can take care of these midsoles, patent leather, and leather. Looking good, slowly but surely. Now, we're onto these soles. We are gonna be icing them, so we gotta get them as clean as possible to get the best results later on. So we're gonna be using our stiff bristle brush, going in on these to get every single little piece of grime fully out. All right guys, that's pretty much all the cleaning I could do for this shoe. All we gotta do now is leave it up to the washing machine and get the rest of the shoe cleaned up. We're gonna put this inside our single laundry bag and head over to the washer. Be back in a bit. All right guys, we are back when putting the shoe inside the washing machine. As you can see, the Signature Shoe Cleaning Kit did its thing. The uppers, the patent leather, the midsoles and soles cleaned up perfectly. My biggest concern about this whole shoe was the white mesh. This shoe is 20 plus years old, so a lot of that grime and dirt has been sitting on this white mesh for a really long time. Usually when that happens, it's really hard to clean that stuff off, but I would say 95% of the stains cleaned off nicely. There is a couple of marks here, 1 mark on the tongue, but I can't complain too much. There is a little bit of yellowing throughout the whole mesh, but that's not grime and dirt. That is aging on the mesh. I am gonna try to clean it up, see if it works. If not, it is what it is. I'm happy with how it looks. Now the next step we gotta focus on are these soles. There is deep yellowing throughout the entire sole. It's pretty much orange at this point. We wanna get it back to as icy as possible. So we'll be using Salon 40, Saran Wrap, the Sun, and the indoor setup. For this step, it's gonna require several sessions and possibly at least 2 weeks of them just sitting in the indoor setup to get it back to as icy as possible. As you can see, the uppers are already separating from the midsole. I'm just gonna go ahead and rip off the uppers from the midsole just because they're gonna get reglued anyway. I don't want any Salon 40 dripping onto the patent leather and potentially ruining it. That's why I'm gonna be doing this. All right, good to go. We'll put this to the side. We'll come back to that later. Now, before I start applying Salon 40 to the entire sole, I'm gonna tape off these Concord pods just so I don't lose any grip on these areas or possibly fade the color. Pods are all taped up. Now lay down a nice thin coat of Salon 40 throughout the entire sole. All right, let's put these under the sun. All right guys, I am back after about 2 weeks of putting these inside the indoor setup. As you can see, these look a lot icier than what they looked like originally. I'll show you guys at the end a side-by-side comparison of how yellow the original was, but overall, I'm really happy with how this looks. There's still some yellowing on the back and front area of these soles, but I'll come back to that later. Now for this next part, we gotta take care of the re-glue. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I need my buddy Sal to come through to help me out with this part. I've never done a full re-glue on a Jordan 11, so I wanna make sure I do this right. So without further ado, let's get my pal Sal in here.
What's up, Vic?
What's going on, bro?
Nothing much, glad to be back.
Of course,
Hey guys, Sal Sneakerhead here, ready to help Vic out with this full re-glue on the Jordan 11 Concords, and I'm pretty excited to do it, man. Thank you for having me back.
Of course, man, that's right. So, for the last few months, I've been wearing those SB Dunk Jasons that we did a restoration on back in November or December.
Came out clean.
Came out awesome. To this day, they're still holding up perfectly. Didn't doubt them at all. Now we gotta do the exact same thing with these Jordan 11s. Dude, I've never done this part, so what's the first step?
First step, as always, is to take acetone to them and prep all of that old glue off. So we're gonna start off with the outsoles and the midsoles, but then we are also going to be taking acetone to the uppers. We're gonna be taping them off so that way none of the acetone runs on there, but you also wanna be careful not to oversaturate so that way it doesn't run underneath the tape.
Of course, and ruin the pound leather and give it the shine, right?
Yeah. Definitely gonna be using this. We are gonna be careful when we are prepping it though, because we don't want the acetone to break it.
So what's one thing to look out for when you're doing a Jordan 11, Sal?
Prep on the upper, the main thing. If you have an eye for it, you can see a lot of like the acetone staining on the patent leather.
Yeah.
Or if it even just dripped over and someone tried to correct it with like some high gloss or something, you can see that.
For sure.
So I think the biggest thing would be the prep, and then also the way you store the shoes, because you're not gonna have the shoe, glued together in a day.
Right.
So the longer you have it separated, the more of a chance you have of that shoe either shrinking or misforming, because it doesn't have anything to really keep it shaped.
Yeah, I've seen that in the past before with, for example, these outsoles. When people try to, remove the yellowing without the midsole, you put them outside, they tend to warp. They either get like really long or something, really big.
Yeah, they get bigger.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, that happens just solely because of the heat. So if you have an indoor, you don't gotta be afraid of that at all. I've done so many like Jordan 11s in my indoor setup, and everything comes out the same size. It doesn't get bigger.
I remember years back, maybe like 10 years ago, I just put up an outsole in the sun for like, I don't know, 2 weeks. When I brought them back, it was just like
heck of big.
Extra long. So far so good, you guys. This stuff is pretty easy. We got the old glue off the bottom and top part of these midsoles. Same thing with the soles and air units. Now we gotta do the exact same thing with the uppers, but these are a little bit different. What's up with this part?
So, unlike the other ones, we have to tape off the upper so that way the acetone doesn't leak over, but we also have to be careful, like we said earlier, not to oversaturate, because the acetone can run underneath the tape and ruin the patent leather. We will be taking a Dremel after the acetone just to roughen up the area so that way the glue has something to cling on to. But other than that, it's pretty plain and simple. Just gotta be super careful.
Prep is complete, you guys. Now we're gonna move on to laying down our glue. For this part, we'll be using bar super stick. I'm gonna go ahead and lay down the glue onto the sole and midsole. What are you doing, Sal?
Well, I'm taking care of the uppers. We're gonna be using the angular brush for when we do the uppers, mainly because I do freehand. Now, if you don't feel comfortable, you can take the shoe and place it back onto the midsole and then tape it off where you need to be, but I'm just more comfortable doing it freehand with an angular brush. Highly recommend an angular brush over this one. You have more control with this one. So one thing that I've, learned or kind of come to a liking for myself is I work from the sides, then to the bottom, mainly because when I'm doing these edges, I like to keep my pinky here for a little bit of stability, because I do, like I said earlier, get a little bit on the patent leather. You don't want to just be shaking up here, so that's why I like doing it from the edge to the bottom, and then you leave it like this to dry before you clamp them. That's just the way I do it. I think it's pretty useful. I don't know if you guys want to try it, you want, but just be very careful when you're freehanding stuff.
We just got back from some lunch at In-N-Out. During that time, we let these parts fully cure for about 40 minutes. We're ready to start bonding all these parts together. What's first, Sal?
First, we're gonna start off with the outsole to the midsole, not just because it's easier, but to ensure that we get proper fitment for that toe. If you were to do the midsole to the upper, you might overextend the outsole's toe part, and that's not what we want. So let's go ahead and do this section by section. We're gonna start off by heating the back portion of the outsole and the midsole first, and work our way down to the toe. Alrighty.
Do it, boss man.
I like to hover it onto it, and my main focus is this tip, so the tip sits right where it should be. After that, I do the sides and then the bottom. Gotta press down these edges a ton, man, because sometimes it's just because all the grooves.
Yep.
Sometimes you just don't push it down enough, and then you go to ship the shoe and you see that one thing, it's like boom, you gotta take it out again and reheat it or reapply some glue there. We also gotta heat up that carbon fiber because it's kind of pushing it out of the way. What I did there was, instead of letting this hang forward, I pushed it into its proper positioning.
Yep.
So that way it crushed this and here into its proper place that it needs to go to. All right guys, so we have the outsole to the midsole. Now we're on to the next step, Vic, which is installing the air unit back into that position that it needs to be in.
Well, real quick, dude, this looks really good. Alignment's on point.
Thank you.
No separations. Spot on, bro. Nice job.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So onto the air units, you guys. For this part, it's gotta go inside the sole. This part's a little tricky, right?
Yeah.
You can't just like put it on there. You gotta kind of to finesse it in there. But if you heat it up, it's gonna kind of get stuck to the outside.
That's where it gets
part.
hard. That's where it gets really, really sticky.
So what's the best way to go about this?
So what I'm really used to is, I'm used to heating up the area that needs to be, heated up to become tacky again. And then I kind of spread the shoes open with one hand, and then I place it in there with the other and make sure I push it back as much as it needs to be, just that way. Sometimes it happened before where the air unit comes up a little here.
Right.
But when you push it back as much as it needs to, it'll just sit back to where it's supposed to go.
So to make it easier for you, do you want me to hold it open and you kind of like heat it up and put it inside?
Yeah, we can do that. That works. Always make sure you're putting it in the right orientation too, though. Put it backwards or something. Yeah. Have to go ahead and stop the whole process, add more glue. Go, see that's in there. And then we just do the rest by that.
That's in there.
That's literally the hardest part, is making sure,
the bottom part in there.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. After that, everything else follows. Perfect. You'll have enough time before it fully cures to you to like push it underneath those little flaps of foam.
Yeah, that was easy. It's a two-man job, I guess. So I would say this is probably the hardest part of this whole re-glue, right?
Yeah. For a lot of people, this is the hardest part, just because of how much curves are on the patent leather. That is what scares a lot of people, because a lot of people will, not line it up perfectly to where the patent leather is and show a lot of the underneath. It's not that hard. If we do it the way we've been doing the outsoles, the Jasons, and the way I've been doing things for a long time, you're gonna be perfectly fine.
So same thing, goes back to the Nike SB restoration. You start from the top.
Yeah, or the hill,
bottom,
yeah.
And then do the sides.
Yeah.
All right.
And the reason I'd like my way, where we wait for the glue to be untacky, is because you can make sure that the shoe is still in proper fitment, and you can maneuver it. And what I like about these is if you put it down, you just set it in, and if it's proper fitment, you heat up, and that's it.
Easy as that.
You're done, you're already on your way.
Cool, let's get it going then.
You also want to make sure, again, the footbed is being pushed down and glued. Now, we didn't specifically heat up the footbed and the air unit, but the residual heat that just, kind of flows down to it is enough for it to make contact. A lot of this is really just pushing the shoe and the midsole together for it to have proper fitment. What I'm doing here is just making sure that everything is lining up before, we get ahead of ourselves and go to clamp something that isn't, necessarily the proper fitment that we want. Alrighty guys, my job here is done. The shoe is completely glued. I think we did an amazing job, Vic. What do you think?
Dude, we did amazing. Honestly, you did most of the work. You did great.
Teamwork, man.
Alignment's on point, man. No glue where there shouldn't be. Everything came out spot on. I definitely learned a thing or two on how to go about a Jordan 11. At first, I thought it was really hard, but after Sal did it, it's honestly not that hard. So on the next project where I had to do a Jordan 11 restoration, I'll definitely take it on myself. But I know there's gonna be that one project where I'm gonna need Sal, the man, to come through. appreciate your time, bro. I definitely learned a lot. I hope the viewers learned some things.
Same, man. Of course, thank you. Thank you for having me. Man, if you can do an 11, you can do any shoe after that, because nothing is as curvy as this.
We'll see, man.
Come on, Vic, you got this.
All right, bro. Appreciate your time, man.
Again, thank you guys so much for letting me come back here and be on this channel. It's like a huge like opportunity and honor. So if you guys want to, check me out on my socials at Sal the Sneakerhead, and I'll see you guys hopefully in the next one. Peace out.
Sal the Sneakerhead, guys.
What's going on, Reshoot Nation? We are back with a crazy sneaker giveaway. We are teaming up with our friends over at Many World Sneaker Boutique to give you guys a chance at winning an Air Jordan 1 Low Dior in a size 10. All you have to do to enter are 3 easy steps. You must sign up for Reshootinator's newsletter, you must follow manyworlds.az on Instagram, and you must comment down below your favorite part of today's video. That's it, guys. The giveaway runs all the way to the end of July, and we'll be announcing the winner on August 8th for Reshootinator Day. Good luck, and let's get back into today's video.
All right, we are basically done with this restoration. We got the soles fully iced up, the uppers cleaned up really nicely, the re-glue came out perfect thanks to Sal. The last step you gotta do is lace this shoe up and shine up the panel leather. The panel leather is a little dull in some areas, it could be a lot shinier. We'll be using some old school Reshootinator Vick Almighty Mink Oil. Don't worry, this stuff is coming back. And an electronic polisher, you can find this on Amazon. All right, guys, that is gonna bring us to an end on this full restoration on these 2000 Air Jordan 11 Concords. Check out these soles. Huge difference. This right here is what I call a day and night restoration. The uppers turned out great. The mesh is back to fully white. We did a full sole reglue. I couldn't be happier with this project. Let's take it back to the beginning. The very first step I did using Reshootinator products, we gave the shoe a proper deep clean inside and out. We put the shoe inside the washing machine and got this mesh back to fully white. After that, we cleared up these soles. We put these shoes inside the indoor setup for about 2 weeks, and that's how we got these awesome results. And lastly, we gave the shoe a full proper reglue by regluing the midsoles back to the uppers and soles onto the midsoles. This is a big thank you to Sal for showing us how to properly do this step. Again, you guys, I'm happy with how the shoe turned out. Let me know what you guys want to see me restore next. This is Vick Almighty. I'll catch you guys next Monday. See you guys.